the Code of the Town of Wells to assist businesses suffering economic loss due to COVID-19 in a manner consistent with the governor's reopening plan.
Second, but it was more the facial expression that I had to laugh at.
All in favor? 5-0, thank you. Next, we have a workshop regarding the town hall to the public on September 8th. Larissa?
Hi, so yeah, just a reminder to everybody, we are reopening fully, no appointments needed starting a week from today, September 8th. We'll be open from 8 to 4 every day, Monday through Friday, except for the first and third Tuesday of each month when we'll be open from 8 until 6. And that's going to allow folks to come on in, do their business, and hopefully when we get back to meeting as a select board in person, be able to stay and be part of those meetings on those first and third Tuesday nights. Residents are going to see when they arrive these handy dandy instruction signs at the front of the doors and throughout the building to remind them this is a face coverings required, no exceptions policy in our building. So we will have masks available for people that are not able, that don't bring a mask with them. And we do actually have a few face shields on site as well for people that are not able to wear a mask for medical reasons. But if you're going to come into our town hall, you are going to have a face covering on the entire time that you're in, not just to get in the building, but when you're doing your business as well. We'll also have these sanitation station signs throughout the building at each entry point, as well as at each entry point to a service office. So in front of the general office, town clerk's office, assessing, cleaning, and codes. And the idea there, and there will be signage to support this, it says very clearly, you must sanitize your hands prior to conducting business. Part of that is to save our staff's hands. If our staff are trying to wash their hands or sanitize their hands after each interaction, their skin is going to simply fall off. So we need our residents to be being the ones that are sanitizing their hands prior to their transactions to keep our staff as safe as we possibly can. And then just remembering for folks when they're in our building to try to maintain some social distance from one another. So the doors will be open. We are going to have staff at that back door. We're going to be doing the same thing. The traffic flow is going to be coming in through the back door, and then you can exit out through the general office if that's where you've been conducting business, or exit out through the front door past my office. Feel free to stop in and say hi, and heading out towards the front of the building that way. So the traffic flow is going to stay the same as it's been. And I'm not expecting there to be hordes of people that will have, you know, stacks of bodies in the hall as they're waiting to conduct business. So we're going to give it a go. We're going to just trust that our offices are doing a great job meeting demand throughout this time of appointments, and that the flow of traffic through the building will allow us to maintain those safe distances of people while they're inside. If I'm wrong about that, we are going to reassess and be the nimble local government that we are and address the situations as they arise. So I think that that's everything I really needed people to hear. We're going to keep reminding folks as we're reopening about the face covering requirement. Our real first priority is the safety of everybody involved. So if we have an outbreak here in the town hall, it means our town hall is shut down and we can't provide services to folks. So we need everyone to help us keep people COVID-free here in the town hall.
Comments from the board?
The only comment I'll make is I love the later hours on those Tuesdays. I think that helps people. Like, there's a lot of people that have to work, you know, certain hours and can't get to the town hall to do their business. And I applaud the idea behind having it open a little bit later on, you know, one day a week, whatever that is. When I'm sorry, I lost when it was, but
First and third Tuesdays of each month.
The night of the Selectmen's meetings.
Right. I just would applaud that very much. I think that's good. That'll help some people that struggle to get here. So that's great.
Great.
I did want to say thank you for allowing that to happen and working towards that, Larissa, because I can tell you that every other person I see, when is that going to happen? When is the town hall going to be open? So I thank you, and I'm so glad that we are getting ready to do that.
Great.
And I'd like to take this time and thank everybody that works at Town Hall. Not that the other departments are important, but specifically for the flexibility of doing that and for the job that they've done dealing with the situation at hand so far, and now to get us back to as normal as we possibly can be. So kudos to them for the job and stepping up and doing what they need to do. So thank you to everyone there. If you want to pass that along, Larissa, that'd be great.
I'm happy to.
Next workshop is COVID-19 property tax impact on local businesses.
Yep, so this, I think we had one local business owner contact us and ask if there was going to be any path towards property tax abatement in light of the financial hardship that COVID-19 has kind of brought forward. And what I suggested to Chair Exted was that this might be just a larger conversation, that this wouldn't be the only business person that would have those sort of questions. And so wanting to just have a conversation, my intent was to come forward with some different paths that the board could consider. And unfortunately, each of those paths that I kind of was looking at to bring forward to you, they all were dead ends. So the long and short of it is that you as a board do not have any legal authority to abate taxes because of COVID-19. So whether that is through a formal abatement request after taxes have gone out. So just a reminder that tax bills go out and then abatements can be requested. So those tax bills are going to go out based on an April 1 of 2020 assessment. And our assessments are done based on market value. And the market value would not have changed at all on April 1 from where it had been prior. So there's no grounding there. And then from a hardship and poverty abatement standpoint, which the state does have allowance for you as a board to grant poverty or hardship abatement, that's only for people that are in their primary residences. That's not an opportunity to be used for commercial properties or secondary homes. So that is kind of a stop there. And we have Keely here that can answer some questions about assessing if we need to. We have Leah here, but I don't see any paths forward for this board. What I can offer up, and it's, I'm sure, cold comfort for those businesses that are really struggling, is the state did release another program for grant funding for small businesses. The requirement is that you have to be a business of 50 or fewer employees, and you must be current on all of your state of Maine taxes. So all of your sales taxes and income taxes. You can't be in bankruptcy, and you have to have not permanently ceased operations, and you have to demonstrate a 20% loss in revenue minus expenses for 2020, so a 20% profit loss. And those grant applications are due by September 9. Maine DECD has had a couple of workshops on those last week, and the week prior. Those workshops are available online. I'm happy to connect anyone to them. They're called the Economic Recovery Grant Webinars on the Maine DECD page. And I'm certainly happy to sit with some business owners and help them through that process if I can be of service in doing that. But from where I sit, I'm not seeing a legal path forward for this board to forgive property taxes on businesses.
Any questions or comments from the board?
No.
Okay, moving on then. Thank you, Larissa. Next, we have the Wells Elks Lodge, 2738, 56 Bald Hill Road. 2 applications, one for a full-time malt business and spirits liquor license and another for a special permit. Any questions from the board on this?
I move to close the public hearing and grant licenses.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0, thank you. Next, good news. Larissa.
Yeah, we actually do have a couple of pieces of good news from the town this week, just that I'm aware of. First is we got a really charming, I love it when they're handwritten letter in beautiful script from a couple that are in their 90s. A shout out to our seasonal officer, Max Shabbat. He reported they had a bat in their home and they had spent a long time trapping this bat. And the words that she used to describe the bat were just charming. It was a 3-page handwritten note. It was very sweet. But anyway, so they had managed to trap the bat between the window pane and the screen, but they couldn't figure out what to do from there. And so our officer showed up and worked with them for over an hour. And they were especially touched by his care of what she refers to as the mammal as well. So the bat was not harmed in the process. And so shout out to him. She told us that we had a true gem in our seasonal employee and to keep an eye on him in the future. That was nice. And then secondly, because who doesn't love a baby, Dispatcher Jason Lazat and his wife Kayla had a baby boy on August 27th. The little boy's name is Julian Jason Lazat, and everyone's doing well, and we're happy to welcome him into our community. So happy, good news to have a little baby.
Great. Anything from the board? Great. We are unable, I guess, because of technical difficulties, to be open to the public at this point. Is that correct?
Yeah, but I'm
That's
not
still-
seeing any hands raised in your attendees that are here with Zoom, nor am I seeing any chats coming through. So I think you're good to go.
Okay, moving on to current agenda items then. Review and action on accounts payable and payroll warrants. Larissa?
Yep. So you have a total warrant today of $754,593.83, and that's broken down into a warrant of $457,502.91, a school payment for payroll of $103,974.56, and $105,709.72, and then the whole taxes package of $87,400.64. So again, total of $754,593.83.
Any questions on the warrant? Take a motion.
I move to approve and sign the warrant dated September 1st, 2020 in the amount of $754,593.83.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, and Chair Exted, we also have a general assistance warrant, please.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, general assistance warrant in the total of $99.74.
I move to approve and sign this warrant dated September 1st, 2020 in the amount of $99.74.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0 again. Thank you. Next is update, discussion, and action on committees, projects, issues, purchases, and personnel. With us, Carol from our Public Works Department for a Public Works project update. Larissa, you want to kick this off?
Sure. So last time I showed that I have absolutely zero sense of the geography of this town, something that I plan to remedy as soon as I possibly can. So we have brought in not only an expert in the field as all things infrastructure and public works, but also somebody who actually knows where things like bridges are in this town. And that is our Public Works Director, Carol Murray. She's here in the room with us. You can see her down on the left-hand side of your screen. Carol, you want to kind of update us on current infrastructure projects that are happening right now and kind of where we're moving forward this fall.
Sure, and I'd like to explain why Joey's sitting very close, because if I say, oh, we can afford that, she can reach out and hit me.
Right.
It's not the case.
Carol,
Carol,
excuse me, Carol.
We're having a hard time hearing you. Is there a mic that you can bring closer?
How's that?
That's not great.
Hold on, we're trying to fix it.
This might be a good time to plant the seed that we do have a CIP project coming your way next spring to update the microphones and so forth in the meeting room.
I was just going to say, I think we need to spend some money on that meeting room.
Yeah.
Hold on, we're trying to get it. Jody, it goes into the wall. Right where that chair is.
Huh.
Do we want to let them figure that out, Carl? And I will address the next one on the agenda, which is the recreation before and after care program.
You're going to handle that one?
I am.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I think I'm going to handle that. Let me just make sure that I don't have. Yep. So I'm really very pleased with our rec department staff. They have been working nonstop trying to find a way to meet the needs of parents for before and after care in the time of COVID. And so they have found a space using the Wells Activity Center, which is nearby to the schools, but not part of the schools. And that's making the schools happy as well to have fewer bodies inside that building and helping them meet their goals as well. So before care and after care are going to take place at the Wells Activity Center. Superintendent Daly was very supportive of the plan and is providing busing for students to be, so parents will drop their kids off at the activity center in the morning. School buses will pick them up from that activity center and drive them to the school. And then in the afternoon, school buses will take them from their school and bring them to the activity center in the afternoon. We've purchased, using grant funding, a system that's going to check each student in. They have an ID that's specific to them that the parent will scan so that parents don't need to go into the building. We've also secured bins for each student's individual items to be secured and kept separate. Really pleased with the safety precautions they put in, while also creating a space where kids are still going to get to be kids and have fun and you know, have that good positive before care and after care experience. Also pleased that they've got a plan in place for if we do go to yellow for in the red, yellow, green system. I believe our understanding is that the schools would be then shifting to a hybrid program where kids would be in school either as an A group Monday, Wednesday, or as a B group Thursday, Friday, with a Wednesday in between as a deep cleaning day. Our program then will shift from before care and after care to all day care for a group of kids Monday, Tuesday that aren't in school because they are group B, and all day care Thursday, Friday for kids that aren't in school because they're part of group A. And we would also keep that Wednesday free for a deep clean in between those two pods of kids. So I'm sure that everyone's going to have to remain flexible and able to kind of roll with things as they happen. We're all still kind of navigating through uncharted territory, but I really am pleased with the staff efforts and the program that they've come up with. The parents seem to be appreciative as well to kind of get that, that one other ball out of the air to address how are we going to continue to function as working parents when we need to have a place for our kids to be safely before school and after school. So that's the plan on the table right now, what we're moving forward with, and hoping for the best. So that's going to kick off not next week, but the following week, I think is the expectation, because that's when kids will be in school full time instead of the staggered start days.
The only real little correction, and I don't want to be quoted on this if it happened, but I think if we go yellow, there's a chance we'll still be full. I think we meet the parameters even in yellow. If we might be able to meet the parameters even in yellow, just so you know. I'm not
Okay.
saying, I'm just, there's a chance we'd still be in full-time school, but.
That's great. And that would be
Not
ideal.
positive on that. That's one of the plans out there.
Okay. And that would, of course, be better for everybody. But it is nice to know that if we did have to go to some sort of hybrid approach, we aren't stranding parents without any place to have their kids be in a safe environment during the day.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Kathy? I guess no need for anything. Just thank you for the update. How are we doing on the microphone in town hall?
We think we've got it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just raise your voice a little bit, Carol, like you're scolding one of us, as you usually do.
Yeah, when I'm angry, I get very quiet. I kind of do a white hot, not a red hot thing. What I was saying before is Jody's sitting next to me so that if I say, oh yeah, we can afford that, she can hit me if in fact we can't, because we're going to talk about a lot of money and a lot of moving pieces. The newest infrastructure piece that came onto our plate unexpectedly was the New Hall Bridge. We had some folks out there putting gravel down, trying to smooth the potholes out, and they called the office and said, you know what? We don't think this bridge is very stable. In other words, the truck was going up and down when it should be sitting still. Went over and looked at it. It was clear it was in danger. I'm not a structural engineer. In my world, a half an inch is nothing. In a structural engineer's world, they'd have heart failure if you said that. I went and looked at it and said, professionally, I would shut this down. Now that means that there was a family on the other side of the bridge that didn't have access. And in fact, safety equipment couldn't get there. We were fortunate that Jim Hall from Dubois and King could come out the next morning, and he helped us adjust Jersey barrier, get the width narrowed down. We took some other safety measures, but at least we could get passenger cars back and forth. In the meantime, Jim and I talked about how do we get temporary access back for this family. It's actually two families on the other side. We talked about different contractors. Jim made a lot of phone calls, starting with Shinbro and folks in Maine. In the end, the only contractor he could find that could come and do it quickly was R.S. Audley from New Hampshire. They came in with some crane pads, put them down in one day, moved the Jersey barrier, and got access back to 23 tons in one day. That doesn't mean we solved the bigger problem of how to replace that bridge. It's a tough one because temporary access has to be maintained for that family, the two families on the other side. So that's going to take some time to develop. The other thing I did before I came here tonight is I spent an hour, which is a long hour, listening to some environmental folks explain about stream crossing grants. The New Hall Bridge is one opportunity, and Drake's Island is another opportunity. So we'll be evaluating which of those fits better. Again, Jim is ready to start into final design, and the hardest nut to crack is going to be that access issue. So I'll keep you informed as that evolves. It's going to require a lot of creative thinking, which quite frankly, engineers are not real good at, but we will make sure we do that in this case. We've kept the family informed. They're much more comfortable now that they've got 23 tons allowed across that bridge. That means they can get some oil deliveries, and that was the really critical factor, and getting their septic tank pumped. So that's Newhall. That's a new one. We're okay for now. It's safe. And the superintendent for Audley said, I've had a 50-ton crane on it. Don't tell me about 23 tons. I think 23 is much safer than going with the 50. We have not planned on the cost of that. My estimation is it's probably $250,000 for a repair, or a replacement rather. But I'm not sure if that's enough money for the temporary bridge also. Jim is on vacation this week. He'll be back next week. He's going to be updating all of this data on Newhall now that we can actually get in there and look at what we've got. Any questions on that one before I move on? Okay. Some old friends, Robinson Road, Pine Ledge, and now it includes Ridgetop Lane. That is that drainage issue that's existed in that neighborhood for at least 10, if not 15 years. It's very flat. As the road name implies, Pine Ledge Road, it's all ledge right underneath the road surface, literally right underneath the road surface. The engineering firm of CMA Engineers was engaged about a year ago. They did a lot of work. They've got the neighborhood so it will drain, but they need a place to take the drainage for an outfall. So they looked across the road to a piece of property the town owns. They'll put a detention basin there, but at a 25-year storm, you could overtop that detention basin. So we don't want to flood downstream, folks. So they then said, well, what you need is a controlled outfall into a pond that's in the back of that neighborhood. They are in the process. If you go down there and if you go on Swamp John, you'll see ribbons, pink and blue ribbons. And those are wetlands delineation flags. So CMA is delineating the wetlands that we have to build the pipe through down Ridgetop Lane. That and Swamp John are on roughly the same schedule. Final design will be completed in around December of 2020. Permitting, which is the big issue on both these projects, will likely not happen until January of 2021. The state had, through the COVID shutdown, had 2 folks working from home, and the applications piled up. If we can get it faster, we'll definitely do it. But the key is we want to get out there, advertise these projects in February with work to begin as soon as frost is out of the ground. Swamp John, as you know, you approved putting a skim coat on it. We're trying to arrange to get that done. But again, both those projects are on a schedule where work would begin in the spring. Both of them are 1-season projects. I'm not worried about getting them done in the season. The construction will go very rapidly once we have the permits in hand. The Robinson Road, Pine Ledge, Ridgetop Lane, we need to get a letter out to those folks explaining this schedule now that we have it nailed down. And same thing with Swamp John for everybody on the road. The one problem we have incurred, I guess, for lack of a better word, is we told everybody to get off Swamp John. So they're now driving on Bragdon Road. And Bragdon Road has a culvert that is very close to failure and a bridge that is very close to failure. We're stressing them, but again, the structural engineer says we're okay. I'm more worried about the culvert. The culvert has some serious structural issues. It's probably the easiest element to identify as having a problem. It's got a big crack down the middle of it. So I think we all would very quickly say that's destined for failure. It's also the most expensive one of the 2 structures there. It's estimated at about 410,000. Jody's turned white. About $410,000 to replace that culvert, probably with a box culvert with a natural bottom, which is something the environmentalists favor. The bridge is about $150,000 rehabilitation. That's not a complete replacement. It's a rehab. Those two structures were not included in the bond, which is why Jody's making big notes.
Just a quick question before we
Yeah.
in regards to Swamp John and in light of the expanded need for replacement of infrastructure in town, my understanding is that our typical paving company had a suggestion to fix Swamp John, well, fix, not quite what we were planning, but had a solution potentially that we could do for a lot less money. What's your thoughts? What would that entail, and what's your thoughts on that, Carol? And would that be a good place that we could maybe look to save some money, get a quality product, and utilize the extra capital down the road for some of these other things?
An excellent question. I will tell you that the repair that I had explained to me would do the same thing that we've always done. And you know, the definition of you always do what you always did, you always get what you always got. That's what would happen in this case. The right way to fix that road is to go back to old ground and rebuild that road from the base up, including proper drainage, proper select materials to provide escape for the water underneath the pavement. Are there cheaper ways to do it? Yes. Are there cheaper ways to do it that you could get 10 to 15 to 20 years of life out of? No. So I would not recommend that.
What would you put the, I guess, the life of that road with that fix? If you had to estimate, of course, I know that's hard to tell, but.
Well, I would say you've probably got a 3 to 5 year fix. Now, again, the way it was explained to me is it's long enough for me to get out of town, but that's not how I do business. I want to make recommendations that give you the longest lasting capital investments possible. And I really believe Swamp John needs to be reconstructed from the base up.
Could I ask a question? Following up on what John said, you know, I know we've already put some fill into it and we've, you know, kind of smoothed it over and graded it over a number of times. If we don't do something, you know, now, and we have all these other things that have cropped up in the meantime that are critical and have to be done with, and they're hugely expensive. And I know that Swamp John, we've had some people say that they could actually do something that would last 15 to 20 years. And I would like to have our paving company or the ones that work with us tell us that it won't last 15 to 20 years. I mean, I'd want to see that if we can do that now and before winter, if we, you know, drop in all the other things and get that Swamp John done. Otherwise, these people are not going to be driving on that easily until next spring, maybe. So I really think at this point, you know, it's been a year we've been looking at this. So I think it's really seriously time to look at, maybe we don't want to go that big full route and we can still get 15 or 20 years out of a really good build up and a paving job. So could we get them to tell us that it's not possible?
I could actually get the engineers that are working on that project to tell you that. Is it possible you could get 10 to 15 years? Maybe. But if you think about when it's been repaved in the past, you were lucky if you got 3 years out of it. The other thing I would say is if you don't do Swamp John and take that money toward other things, you're not addressing the immediate needs. Swamp John is an immediate need. Those seawalls, the culverts, all those other things that we talked about are going to take a lot longer to get designed, have public involvement, and get them done. So I don't think you're going to not do Swamp John and take that money and get something else done quicker. But I can certainly get the engineers to give us an opinion on that. I will say that moving the center line, shaping up the crown and making it black does not solve the drainage problem. And the problem with Swamp John is water under that road. And as long as you got water and unsuitable soils under that road, it's gonna crack and heave.
What sort of unsuitable soils did they find under there, Carol? How deep was the gravels, and was it loam? Was it obviously clay in a swamp? But I'm just curious what the actual composition was.
Yeah, the expectation was that there was quite a bit of gravel in there, and it isn't. It's a lens of gravel. And then underneath that, you've got peat, which is totally saturated, which is not surprising given the vegetation that's around it. So not enough that you have to surcharge it or totally take it out, but you do have to get the water out of it so it can solidify. Yes, clay, which, clay when it's wet suspends and it floats around, and then when you dry it out, it comes back to a really, really hard condition. The hope originally, when I first started looking at this project, was that there would be enough gravel there to sell to finance the road, and there's not, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, you knew that part.
And don't get me wrong, I want to do a good job for these folks. It's just my only line of thought on that was if we had something, even if it lasted 5 years, and say it was 170,000. So how long are we, we had an estimated cost of around $1 million or $1.5 million to redo the road. I was just curious from that standpoint if it made more sense to go with that, considering how long that would go. So again, I don't want to do a bad job. These folks have been very patient in a bad situation. So
yes, they have. I've made a point of driving that way every night so that I could keep an eye on it. There's policy decision to be made here, and I'm going to give you my advice, and then you kind of have to set the policy. You might be able to get 3 to 5 years out of it. Maybe there's some other things that we could do ourselves to help with the drainage, but we don't have permits, so I can't muck around too much in the wet areas to put drainage in there. There's one big culvert there that was replaced. I think it was the Mother's Day storm, and it wasn't engineered. It was just something that was in the pit that got put in there. So I'm not sure of the condition of that. Again, we can do something as has been described, moving the center line and building in the crown, but it's not going to last very long, unfortunately.
If we would need to have the permits, even if we were just going to repave it, is that?
No, and I'm sorry, that was my confusion. No, if I tried to improve the drainage, which there are some things that we could do with our own equipment and personnel, I would need a permit to do that. To just repave it, no, you do not need a permit. That falls under maintenance, and maintenance is not required to be permitted. Sorry about
Carol,
that.
just a question. We had talked about a skim coat to get through the winter that might last 3 to 5 for like $40,000. Is that something that you're still recommending not to do?
I'm recommending that we do that. It's not gonna be as cheap as I had hoped. The last quote we got from Pave Tech was $90,000. It's not a throwaway because you grind it up and you use the material when you reconstruct the road. I would suggest that we go ahead and do that. Again, let the engineers finish their work, advertise the full project this winter, and reconstruct that road come spring, and give those folks a road that will last 10, 15, actually 20 years is the average design life, with some minor pavement work in between.
And when could we do the pave coat, the top coat?
Within the next 2 weeks.
So we could have that done for 2 weeks, and it would be fine, plowable, all that other, they could drive on it. And in the spring, they could regrind it, use that material for our engineering, because I'm not even sure that we'd be able to do it in the spring. And then, so at least they'd have it for maybe 3 years if we got stuck.
If we got stuck, absolutely.
Yes, Well, I would really like to see that happen.
So Carol, just from a number standpoint, so I'm clear, spent 90,000. I know there's a lot of labor in putting that down, but the cost, if we're going to regrind and reuse some of that material from 90 to be what, 60 or 50 or not that much?
I would say probably 50. You know, again, asphalt is a fabulous material when it's ground up. The material that is out there now, the dirt, has been pounded by traffic. It's got great compaction. That's certainly good material to reuse also. So it wouldn't be a throwaway.
So for a net of 50,000, we can give those people some relief. And in the big picture, we're going to have many more workshops in regards to these projects and the costs and the shuffling of money to make sure that we spend the 4.5 on the bond that we got passed appropriately.
Correct. Correct.
So
Yeah.
when it comes to this,
Okay, go ahead. Tim, did you want to say something?
Yeah.
Bill,
I have somebody else talking, sorry.
go ahead, Tim.
When you do the two bridges on Bragdon Road, Swamp John is a likely detour road for that construction.
Just a couple of points, and I heard about this 170 thing, and I know I've expressed this before, but I've been on the board now 9-10 years, whatever the number is, and we've discussed Swamp John from I think the first day I walked on the board. Swamp John has always been in discussion. It used to be the whole discussion was people used to think we could take all the fill, sell it, and we'd fix the road, and we would have made money on the deal and all this. At one point that was told to me by people that I thought knew what they were talking about and stuff like that. And now some of these same people involved in our paving companies are throwing out these numbers. And my answer is, where were you? Like, where were you for the last 10 years, not telling us we can fix this for $170,000 and it lasts 10 to 15 years because you worked for the town then. So I don't have a lot of faith in that, that lasting and stuff like that. I have faith in these other engineers, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. We did, the people of town did vote to fix that road. I get there's only 15, whatever number of families and things on that road, but there's a whole bunch of people,
Right.
and a whole bunch of companies that use that road. That's like our thoroughfare for the people out back. Excuse me. I'm fine with the skim coat and in lasting and trying to figure it out. I'm not trying to say that's not the right thing, but let's make sure we take care of it right when we eventually get there. I'm just not sold. I'm sorry, people had a chance to do this when they worked for us, and they didn't.
I'm trying to be careful with what I say here because I don't want to criticize somebody unfairly, but that same individual repaved that road a couple of times, and it was just as bad the following year. I didn't want to repeat that.
Can I say something right now? Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so if we moved ahead, if we were to say, yes, it's more than just it's not just the tar and asphalt thing that we're spraying down. We're going to be doing a paving job on that one, right? A top skim coat.
Correct.
And so that would at least take us until the time that we can do it right. I just want to make sure that if we say we want to go ahead and do this, we're not a month from now saying, oh gosh, we couldn't do it. I want to know that we get it done in the next couple of weeks if that's going to happen, because that's the only reason why we would want to do it now, and so that they'd be okay for the winter. Next rainstorm's not going to put ruts everywhere. So that's my question. If we wanted to go ahead and say, yes, this is what we want to do, we can do it within the next 2 or 3 weeks, right?
Yes, I talked to Billy from PaveTac this afternoon. He's going to jump through some hoops for us and get that done. So I have pretty good confidence in PaveTac as a company. They've done great things for us before. It is more than, it's not an oiled road like we used to do, and it's not what I used to call a farmer's mix, which is just black rock. This is actually asphalt.
Okay.
Now, it will definitely get you through the winter. I cannot think of any reason why this project could not be advertised for bids in February and work starting again when frost comes out in April.
Well, and I just want to be clear. I absolutely support this project and the idea of rebuilding it. I work with soils enough to know that it's important to have a good base. Obviously, that wasn't done. But my concern was just that we have something for these folks because this year has been terrible for them. and there's no denying that at all. So I wanted a solution for them, but I'm also concerned when I hear things like we have a potential for $5 million more in failing infrastructure in town. That kind of sets an alarm off to me, because it's not just that 5 million. What else are we missing? What else are we not seeing? I would have another question too, is it seems some of the stuff is rather reactive at this point. Do we have any plans in place to be more proactive about assessing our infrastructure?
I wish I could say yes. As you know, I believe in plans. And that's why when I got here, we worked on the asphalt plan, the repaving plan, found out what our right number was to spend every year, which roads we need to do in what order and what kind of treatment. The next issue that I would like to tackle, and I'm not prepared to bring it forward yet, but is the condition of our drainage systems. In particular, starting with Route 1, because we've already had 2 catch basins fail on Route 1, and there's a third that's in jeopardy now. I have a hard time making reasonable recommendations about infrastructure investment to you absent those evaluation plans. So no, we don't currently. Yes, we should. And that's going to be my main focus, is trying to put those plans together. Unfortunately, these seawalls, the bridges, all came at once. And I'm not saying the town ignored their infrastructure. I'm saying we as a nation ignored our infrastructure for a lot of years. And we're trying to get caught up now. The interstate system was built 65 years ago, and we haven't done a very good job of maintaining it. I want the town to be in a position where they can maintain the infrastructure that your fathers and grandfathers built. Long answer to say you're right.
Yeah, and I like the fact that our departments have replacement plans for the equipment and things that we can look at and see that we can expect this reasonably down the road. And I had this conversation with Larissa the other day when I met with her, was that, we keep our mill rate low, which is great, but we don't want to spend a bunch of money, but we also don't want to kick that can down the road. So 20 years from now, we have major failings and we have to spend the money. I really think it's crucial we get on top of having some sort of planning. We have a lot of roads, a lot of area in town. So
I absolutely agree with that. And again, I did the pavement program, but I also did the equipment acquisition 6-year plan. I like to have those things. I think it's only fair to give you those things so you can make proper decisions as leaders of the town. I want to be sure I say that none of these infrastructure things we're talking about are going to fail tomorrow. If they were, we would have taken steps to protect the public and close them. The closest we have to something that would fail is the Bragdon culvert. The seawalls are okay. They're not in danger of imminent failure. But I will tell you, when I look at Casino Square and I see that seawall tipped about 10 to 15 degrees, I know there's a moment there that's building up. But that's, again, those are the sorts of things I need to bring to you with costs, with recommendations. And we've got time. I guess I would like to reassure that we do have time.
I want to just, if I can just chime in very briefly, I've got your 2020 warrant in front of me. When we're talking about shifting monies and so forth, I was reading the warrant article to see if there was space there to reassess some of the projects and move things that weren't included in the original language forward. We can certainly get Leah's opinion on this, but I don't think you can. Town meeting gave you permission, and your warrant article reads as shown on table 4 of the appendix. And your table 4 outlines exactly the projects that are going to be covered by that bond and the dollars that are going to be spent on each project. So I just want us to be aware, yes, we have $4.5 million that's been bonded, or that we have permission to bond, rather. We haven't gone to the market yet, but we have permission to bond. But we have been given that permission for specific projects by the town meeting. And so, yes, I'm hearing the Bragdon Road culvert, that's a challenge. We can't simply, in my opinion, we can't simply take that money that we have permission to bond and apply it to Bragdon culvert. You don't have permission from your legislative body to do that. So we just need to be thoughtful about that.
I wasn't implying that, but if we spend the
Right.
money, we spend it. If we don't spend it, we don't spend it. I mean, one way or the other. We had the language, I remember Carl saying it, not to exceed the grand total. So it was kind of.
Right, right. Right.
Not to
Agree
exceed.
with- If we don't spend
Yeah.
it, we can use some of that money that we're not spending on that for something else.
Right, no, and I just want to be clear, that's not what I was implying, shifting money from one place to another. I was just curious if there was some cost savings that we could have, still do these projects. So I just want to be clear.
And I think there are cost savings opportunities that as we really start working on the design of these projects, you could get economy of scale by combining some of these when you get ready to go to bid. And there's one major project that I haven't talked about yet, and that's the Drake's Island Bridge. It's not so much the bridge that keeps me awake at night as it is the approaches. The guardrail is literally hanging in air. The material has sloughed away. It's in very poor condition. I would not want to test that rail myself. That's going to be a complicated project to advance. We can't just simply say, sorry, folks, we're going to shut the island off from access. And we can't say, oh, in Rachel Carson, we're going to build a temporary bridge on your property. This is going to have to unfold carefully with a lot of public involvement with the residents, with the environmental agencies. And I've started that. I've reached out to, I always forget them all, but Rachel Carson, Audubon, Fish and Wildlife, and we're going to have a meeting in about 2 weeks to begin those discussions. I think this is a very likely eligible project for the stream crossing grants, especially if we could get the environmental agencies to support our application. It's not going to be an easy one. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some sensitivity to the resources and the folks out there. So stay tuned because it's going to be a long process to get through it. I think that covers all of the infrastructure pieces, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
One for me that's near and dear, Carol, as I know, and I know you're working on some ordinance language, but we spend all this money on pavement, which pavement is very near and dear to my heart, and we'll be talking about it at our next budget session, I'm sure, about how much we're going to put in for paving. But when we pave all these streets and then we cut into them, flowable fill and repairing these roads properly, I think it's an atrocity that we don't fix these things properly after we spend all this money to repair them. It's high time that we got that language put forth so we can make a change.
I agree with you. The one thing I need to do, I gave Larissa a way that another town lets you buy the damage you're going to do to the infrastructure back. In other words, it's a service life payment. But before I go forward with that, I think in fairness, I need to meet with the sewer district and with KKW so that they know what we're contemplating, because they set their rates, for example, for a new structure based on what it's going to cost them to cut the pavement. I don't anticipate they're going to object, but I think in fairness and being good neighbors, I need to sit with them before I go too far.
The way that program would work is it would set up a reserve account, basically. So what we would say is, if you are going to cut into a road that was paved within the last 5 years, you're going to owe the town that's going to be held in this reserve account, $3,000. If you're cutting into and it would be, based on the size of the cut and the shortening of the lifespan of the road they're cutting into. And so that would be a decreasing fee depending on how many years ago the road had been paved. And so it would need to go through you guys to get approval, but ordinance language, it looks good. And we would also be folding into that same language standards of what repair looked like, so that there's an expectation of what we mean when we say repairing from a cut.
I think Saco has a provision like that, fairly certain.
I think they do. The actual one that I have in front of me is the city of Beverly, Mass. I have a huge amount of respect for the DPW director down there, and he developed these. Admittedly, Beverly's a city, we're a town, but I know that Mike put a lot of thought into these standards. I do think that I need to be fair to the sewer district and the water district. So that conversation I will pursue, and then I'll bring that information back to you so that you know what their input is. They don't take it lightly to cut the road, but they sure do it an awful lot.
When we put this, I think I told you this before, but when we put the senior center in on Route 1, they were getting ready to pave Route 1. We had to pay ahead of time. We worked with the sewer company and the water company to make sure we got the lines across that road before they got it paved. You know, we did it way before we really needed it, but because we knew that it was going to be coming down the line, it would cost us a heck of a lot more afterwards, or we wouldn't even be able to do it for the first year.
Right. The other thing that we do not do well, and I'm being totally honest with you, is we do not reach out to the utility companies early enough with our paving program to say, oh, by the way, we're coming through. You want conduits across the road? If so, you supply the material. So I think we have a responsibility there. And I say we, I think DPW has a real responsibility to sharpen up our program when it comes to interfacing with the utilities.
Well, I had one more question while we're still on infrastructure. If we're all done with the rest of the projects that we talked about, that was a concern that was raised to me today. I guess there was a drainage project down on Dyke Street that was slated that looks like it's going to be pushed until November 1st. It seemed like a relatively small project dollar-wise, but I think it would be probably not a good move to wait until November 1st when we're talking about frosts and everything. Is there any way that we could kind of discuss that?
Yes. Dyke Street, I'm sure you folks know, is kind of downhill from everything. So all of the drainage from up above flows to Dyke Street. There's a section of Dyke Street that is dirt. And as we've talked about Swamp John, the folks down on Dyke Street know my phone number and they call up and say, can you come and regrade it? Which I don't mind doing, but I reached out to them and said, what if we paved it? Would you want that done? Well, they got pretty excited. But obviously, I'm not going to pave it unless the drainage is appropriate. Being at the bottom of the hill, every road that comes in there should have a catch basin on each side. And then you take the water out to the marsh. It's a little more complicated than I had hoped, a little more expensive than I had hoped. I would love to do it sooner rather than later. And I'm trying not to look at Jody because she's going to tell me there's only X amount of dollars in infrastructure. And I don't know what that number is, Jody. But if we have the funds, I would love to do that project. I think we kind of owe it to those folks who have lived with that dirt road, lived with that drainage. There's one gentleman down there that literally his garage is the outfall of all the drainage. She's making notes. She's not making eye contact. So that was kind of a blind side for Jody. But if we have the money, I'd love to advance that if you folks are on board with that.
I just want to make sure that we are actually going to advance Swamp John. I want, we had talked about it. I don't know if we want to vote or whatever the thing is, but to put that paving on Swamp John before the next 3 weeks.
I think that the expectation, Kathy, is I don't think we need to vote on that. I think that that's just an operations activity, and the only holdup is when we can get into PaveTech's schedule. So PaveTech they've come in, they've given us the cost. We've told them, yes, we want you to do this work, and we're just waiting on them to tell us when they're going to get it done. So that project is in the works. That is happening. That is a priority project.
All right, thank you. That's what I want to know.
And the other piece of that is that project, the full project is headed for advertisement in February, construction in the spring. If anything changes on that, I will be back to you as soon as I hear of it. But I see no reason that schedule would ever waver. And we need that road reconstructed again when we start working on Bragdon. That's going to be a key piece of a detour.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks for the update, Carol. Keep going.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I
thought you invited me tonight to give me a birthday cake.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nice try.
And nice
Happy
try.
birthday. All right, moving along to discussion and action on approval and adoption of an anti-nepotism policy. Larissa.
Yep. So this is a policy that we brought forward to the Personnel Advisory Committee a couple of weeks ago, has their full support. And really it's just to bring us up into just really what our standard practices, I think, across the private sector and in the public sector, that we just simply don't have on the books. And what it's saying is that we are going to, try to avoid any circumstances in which we have family members directly reporting to other family members, that just causes some HR headaches. But for those departments where we have staff that are directly related to their supervisor, we will work with them to develop a management plan. This is not an attempt to remove anyone from their current position. It is not an attempt to disrupt anyone's work life here in the town of Wells. It really is a place for us to simply have policy language that makes it clear that we don't prefer and we try to avoid family relationships in direct supervisory lines, but if they can't be avoided, we have the right to insist on a management plan that is approved by HR and by me that allows our staff to work in a way that is still transparent and efficient and all of the things we want our work to be.
Questions or comments from the board?
I can't support this one. I got to come out and say that right now. I appreciate the sentiment. However, it is a small town. I know a lot of the people that work in the town government, and I just have to question if this is an actual problem that we have. I don't know. The people that I know are, they have integrity, they're honest, and I just don't like the message to me that it's going to deliver. So I couldn't support it. The other concern that I have too is that I think if we're going to come up with plans for employees, to me, that's it's a change of agreement, I guess, if we came in and did that with existing employees for what we had for an understanding prior. I understand that we say we don't want to remove anybody, but in the language of it, it says that we have 180 days to comply or something like that, and it's being left up to the sole discretion of HR and the town manager's office. Another issue that I'd have with it is I'd really think the elected officials should be involved in approving those plans. That way there's more discussion on it. So those are the issues that I take with it.
Kathy?
Yeah. My only question besides that, yes, it is a small town. And yes, we have people families that have worked for the town over the years, is that the people that are in place now, that's my biggest concern. I mean, I can understand if we want to move forward, if we say from now on when we hire somebody, we'll have that nepotism in place, if that's okay. But the people that already are in existence, that this is the situation that's already occurring, I agree. I really hesitate to say that, we're going to change them right now, halfway through their,
Nope.
Well, explain that then.
Yep, so if you, section 4 says a municipal employee may hold a supervisory position or be senior in the chain of command to an individual with whom he or she has a personal relationship or financial involvement when and only when the following conditions are met. Relationship is disclosed.
Right.
Okay, so that's the town manager must approve a written management plan developed by the department head that is designed to prevent favoritism or any other improper influences in connection with the employment relationship, and that provides ongoing oversight by a person or persons not subordinate to either of the individuals who have a personal relationship or financial involvement. And the town manager shall report to the BOS the existence of the potential incompatibility and will establish a management plan to address the same. And the written management plan must be on file and available for public inspection within the Office of Human Resources. So
Right.
the understanding is that, yeah, we know that Wells historically has had a lot of families that have been involved in municipal government, and we're not saying that that should cease. What we're saying is that if you are and we lay out all of the degrees of family relationship, that if you are going to supervise that family member, that there has to be a management plan in place that shows how that assessment is going to take place of that staff's work and how that relationship is going to unfold within the workplace and have that clearly understood. Again, this is in no way going to remove anyone out of their current position or change their current workflow. What it is going to do is make very clear how is that employee going to be assessed as far as their performance if they have as their immediate supervisor, a family member. This is standard language, standard practice in most municipalities. I think it's just something that hasn't been brought forward here.
And I understand that. I have no problem with it moving forward. I just don't want it to impact anybody that's already there.
Yep.
Or a situation that already occurs. I know there were all those exceptions. I didn't have any problem with that. I just want to make sure that it isn't going to be now say, now you're going to be in, you have 180 days and that's it. You don't,
No, this is not going to remove anyone from their position. That is not what this is designed to do. I want to be careful though, I heard you say that this isn't going to impact anyone. It is, in that we are going to have a management plan. Okay, so that, let's say that my daughter was my executive assistant. Okay, that doesn't mean that she can no longer, she's not, by the way, just don't start rumors, but if that were the relationship, she doesn't lose her position because she happens to be my daughter. What does happen is that there has to be a management plan that is in place and that has been approved in order for her to continue to work in that role. And so our expectation is that everyone will stay within their role and everyone will stay employed with us, continuing to do their good work with us, but that we will have a management plan in place to make sure that there is accountability for those positions.
And has there been discussion with the people that this impacts?
We have not discussed it with the people that this would impact. We have brought this to the Personnel Advisory Committee, like I said, and there was a unanimous vote in support of the policy as written and presented to you. And I think our expectation would be that we have that 180 days, 6 months, to then work with department heads to identify where there are familial relationships. So we know where most of them are, but to identify where there are familial relationships and to get those management plans in place. For offices for departments in the town that are not under the authority of the town manager's office, okay, this doesn't apply. This is only applying to town staff that are under the direction of the manager's office.
I still have concerns because it's very ambiguous. What is in a management plan? What are acceptable terms? What are we going to set our benchmarks at? And then the other concern that I have, and it's nothing against you, let's remove us, this board, this town manager. If we pass this, what's to stop someone from just going, well, this isn't going to work, they're related. And then will it affect promotions? I mean, will it be looked negatively upon?
Can I make a suggestion? Sorry. Can I make a suggestion that we have a workshop with the ad hoc committee, that committee, and workshop this so we can have a discussion why this came about, how it all came about, and what's going on instead of this. Right now, I'd like to hear from them because I've always had great respect for that group of people that did worked on this, and so I'd like to hear from them personally. But that's me.
Well, I just need more info too. I mean, I just don't.
That's what I mean. That's what a workshop would do.
Right.
So that the people that are going to be having to be dealt with know. I want to hear feedback from them. So I like a workshop.
I guess at this point in time, we will table this item. We will bring it forth back to the Personnel Advisory Committee to have a workshop with the full board so we can discuss the pros and potential cons and put this thing forward at a later date. Is everyone in agreement with that?
Yes.
That's fine.
Take a motion to table it then, Kath.
I make a motion that we table this.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0, thank you.
Carl, I just wanted to let you know that Tina is on. If anybody had any questions for her about Larissa, she just came on to a Zoom meeting. If someone had questions for her about her agenda item earlier.
I think we're all set. Personally.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let her know. Thank you.
Thanks. Next item then is discussion and action on the fiscal year 20 carry forwards into fiscal year 21. I know Jody is with us tonight, but Larissa, you want to take this?
Sure. So I worked with the town manager. As the board knows, we've always brought carry forwards forward. In the past, we've tried to reduce them. And what we're bringing forward tonight is only stuff that we feel, some of it is because bills had gotten delayed. Some of it's COVID stuff. And then the town manager does have 2 requests that she'd like to discuss.
Yeah, Larissa?
Yep, there were 2 that I wanted to just kind of bring to your attention because they're kind of out of the flow of the COVID requests and to think that they're out of just standard carry forward behavior. But one of them is number 5 on your list is the union non-union salary line. When I looked at the history of this over the last 3 or 4 years, the town does consistently carry forward somewhere between 70 and 85,000, depending on the year. I checked with Jody, confirmed with her that this is not a line that we keep our money to negotiate labor contracts with, and this is not a line that we keep money to pay out vacation and sick to retiring people or people leaving our organization. So I don't think that we need to carry forward the full amount, but I have requested that we carry forward 15,000 of it. And then I provided you in your packet some extensive explanation of that. That is an attempt to kind of satisfy the warrant article that was put forward in June of 2019, Article 14, in which the townspeople supported a full-time firefighter. The challenge with that article is that the article has language that says a full-time firefighter as Part A or Part 1, and then Part 2 gives a monetary value of $51,048 all in. And that's broken down further in parentheses as a $34,000 in salary and $17,000 in benefits. The challenge is that first off, there is no firefighter that we could possibly hire at $34,000 a year in salary. In the explanation part of the article, it talks about it being a 40-hour-a-week position. That doesn't exist in our town. We do not have a 40-hour firefighter position. Our firefighters work in an 8-week average, 57.5 hours a week. And so I included in there, part of the article, I didn't talk about this, and I don't think that this was part of the discussion in 2019, but part of why we want to move that forward is also included in your packet is OSHA CFR 29-1910.134. And that was an OSHA standard that was actually passed at the federal level in 1998. And then I also included the Maine Department of Labor standards that pertain to that. That was originally passed in 2000 and has been amended a couple of times since then, but highlighting for you in your packet section 3, in which it says federal OSHA standards located at 29 CFR sections 1910 that I included, as incorporated by the Board of Occupational Safety and Health. All chapters as applicable will also apply to municipal fire departments and volunteer fire associations. It's a very long section of the OSHA language, but I have it available for you if you want to read all of the pages. But the most important part is the procedures for interior structural firefighting, and that's what I highlighted for you in your memo. And in short, that's referred to as the 2-in, 2-out rule. And what it says is that at any structural fire, you need to make sure that you have 2 firefighters fully equipped with breathing apparatus that are within sight and sound of one another anytime they're in a building, minimum of 2, and that you need to have a minimum of 2 people, equal numbers, to support them outside of the building, 2 in, 2 out. Currently, we run our staffing at 3-person shifts, and during the busy season, we supplement that 4th needed role through overtime. And in the non-busy season, we trust on magic, really, but call firefighters to some extent or mutual aid to support our firefighters if there is a structural fire, but we're not meeting basic Department of Labor standards. This is another thing that we brought before the Personnel Advisory Committee. They have their unanimous vote to support the implementation of this additional firefighter as indicated in Article 19. I also included in your packet all of the financials that show how we would pay for that position and what we would expect to save in overtime costs. There is a significant cost to us staffing a 4th firefighter on shift through overtime. And so you'll see that breakdown. But what I'm asking for in this carry forward and why it's there is that if we were to hire a full-time firefighter as of 10/1, so the beginning of Q2 for fiscal year 21, if we were to hire them, this is their first time they've ever been a firefighter, they've never worked for anyone else before, it's going to cost us $61,425. If we hire somebody with 2 years experience per the current contract, it's going to cost us $63,629. And since our warrant article is only for 51, I need some additional dollars to cover that position. And so what I'm asking here for in that carry forward is those dollars to bring that person on as of 10/1. Why I wanted to write, why you have all of this paperwork as part of your agenda, why I highlighted it in a memo is because we have authority from town meeting to hire a full-time firefighter. I need everyone to hear. I can do that for $61,000 to $63,000 this year, but next year in the budget cycle, you're going to see that full all-in cost of that firefighter in the fire department budget. The position's already been voted on. You're not going to see it as a separate warrant article. It's going to just be in their operations budget. So I just wanted to make sure that we're highlighting that. We live in a glass house here in the town hall, need to make sure that everyone's seeing what we're doing and why. And so the savings on that, I think, is legit. As far as overtime savings, we will see a decrease in the overtime line. I want to be clear, it will not be dollar for dollar. We will still have overtime needs because people will still get sick or people will still need to take vacation. We're going to need to backfill that position in order to cover those costs. But that's all the information that I've provided for you and why. Any questions that I can answer about that? Okay.
Anything from the board?
No.
All right. The second line that I wanted to highlight to you and bring your attention to is the IT line. We had $28,250 that was being proposed as an ending fund balance to be carried forward. I really don't think we need that full amount. I'm asking for a total of $23,500 to cover two separate things. One of them is, I told you all that I plan to bring to you by mid-October a plan for how we will respond as an organization if we do have a spike in COVID again that forces closures. Okay, how are we going to continue to operate? How are we going to continue to meet the service demands of our public if we need to not have our buildings open? And part of that is making sure that our senior staff can work from home. Part of that is if I say on a Thursday, hey guys, the state has shut everything down. I need you to go home and you can't come in tomorrow. I need our senior staff to still be able to do the jobs that I need them to do and to work with me to get our other staff up and running as well. None of our senior staff have laptops. I'm asking as part of a sort of forward-thinking planning for this, I think, possible, if not likely, reclosure experience for us to get our senior staff equipped with the laptops I need them to have in order to work from their homes. And so I'm asking to use carry forward funds of no more than $22,000 to outfit the 11 department heads with laptops. And then the additional $1,500 is the computer that's behind the flat screen in the meeting room needs to be upgraded and changed out. And so that's a $1,500 cost that I would like to cover through this carry forward. So I highlighted that for both of you in the memo and again in the spreadsheet that you have in your little notes on the side there. Any questions about the IT request?
Yes, I understand you're going to be, it says you're going to present a full plan and everything. I'm not willing to, not voting on yes on this tonight. So,
Okay.
but we're going to bring the forward, it'll include the 23,000, but I'm not prepared to say specifically it's going to be for this tonight. When you do the plan and you make the recommendations to us, I want to hear it then why we would possibly need to have laptops for everybody when everybody has computers at home for the most part.
Everybody has personal computers at home that are not secure. So, okay, we can have that conversation as part of the planning. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, we can move it forward and then justification for the purchase of them can happen at a later date.
Right.
sure.
So do we want to move it forward? Are we?
Any other questions on any of these line items that you guys have looked at? If none, take a motion, Kath.
I move to carry forward the list of fiscal year 20 municipal budget funds and accounts recommended by the town manager and finance director in the amount of $182,096, of course, for the exception that we're not approving the $23,500 at this time.
Second, I think.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-0, thank you.
And just to clarify though, do I have outside of the 22,000 that I am proposing to be using as part of the COVID spike plan, do I have permission to execute on other items within the carry forwards outside of that money?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that was the only exception.
Okay.
And then we may vote, at some other time. Not tonight.
Okay, next is presentation and preliminary year-end financials. What are you going to take this, Larissa? You want to cue it up?
Nope, this is all Jody.
Jody, you're on.
All right. So, as you know, We finished the year on June 30th, but we run a period 13. So the financials that were in your packet are for period 13. So those are for any bills that we approved in the first 2 warrants in July, and then the first warrant in August that had bills that were dated June 30th that we had to pay out of FY20 bills. We finished the year pretty strong. You'll see that we collected $868,000 more than our expenditures. Our total revenue collections were about 96.2%, and our total expenses were 94.2%. I did also note the transfer station enterprise we knew was at a loss, and there had been no activity in that fund for the full year once we made that loan payment to the transfer station to pay down the debt. Our beach enterprise finished strong with a fund balance of $360,969. And then our recreation enterprise finished with a fund balance of $665,813. A lot of that funding that is in there, though, are for infrastructure repairs or CIP projects that have been voted on that will be coming out, in future years. So the rec department is sitting on that balance, but there are projects that are approved that haven't been spent out of that yet. If anybody has any further
currently
questions.
with our 30, 60, 90-day monies?
We're currently right around the 85-day mark, ending June 30th.
Awesome. Questions from the board?
Mm-mm. Nope.
Great job, Jody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Staff? If there's no other questions, we'll move on to discussion action to approve a quitclaim deed for the following property that had a foreclosure date of February 27th, 2020. The 60-day buyback period for the property ended April 27th, 2020. The property is Gates, Daniel O, and Amy B. Property is known as parcel number 0045/007-006. Payment was received to pay fiscal year 18, 19, and 20 on August 12th, 2020. The quitclaim deed releases the lien filed in the book and page 17787/715. Take a motion.
I move that the board approve and sign the quitclaim deed to release the lien on the property listed above.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0, thank you. Next is discussion and action on accepting donations and bequests. First is the donation of a power pruner Echo PPT-2620H from Don Essen of 31 Tote Road to the Public Works.
I move that we accept the generous donation and write a letter of thanks to the donor.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0, thank you. Next, we have a $50 donation from Mark Gold to the Wells Public Library.
I move that we accept the generous donation and write a letter of thanks to the donor.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0 again, thank you. Next is a $200 donation from William and Eleanor Andrews to the Town of Wells for the Fuel Assistance Program Fund.
I move that we accept the generous donation and write a letter of thanks to the donor.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0 again, thank you. Next is discussion and action on approving the minutes of the August 18th, 2020 Selectmen's meeting. Any corrections, additions, or changes need to be addressed?
I move for approval of the August 18th, 2020 Selectmen's meeting minutes.
Second.
All in favor? 5-0, thank you. Good job, Cindy. And to new business, do we have the ability for open to the public, or are we still shut down, Chris?
There are no questions, and we're still shut down.
Anything from the board?
No.
Next is the town manager's report. Larissa.
First order is wanting to let the public know that starting with the October meetings, we are going to be shifting the live stream to the town's Facebook page. It is a town meeting and we'd like to have it housed on that town page, but we want to give people some time to adjust to that shift. So we'll be publicizing that on the police department's Facebook page, letting people know about that change and alerting them to that change and having a full month before we make that change. So the first October meeting will be running live underneath the town's head. Kind of along that same line, Brittany has been a wonderful support during these meetings, but I think that she's got a skill set that I'd really like to take advantage of in some other areas. We have her under contract through March, so she and I have talked about how she can be supporting us in other communications efforts and moving things forward in a different way. And starting the next meeting, I will be in charge of monitoring those questions and reading them out to you as part of your open public comment. I feel up to the challenge. So I will take care of that for us moving forward, and we'll take advantage of Brittany's really impressive skill set in other ways around town. Other thing that again, COVID really introduces a lot of things that we hadn't had to think about in the past, and I'm looking for some thoughts about how you want to address this. One of the CDC guidelines for any time that we are opening spaces is to limit touch points. Okay, so not having people handling items that then they put back for somebody else to handle. So we're clearing the town hall of pamphlets and other things that people would pick up, read, and put back down. And it brought to mind about our posting of physical agendas. And so kind of looking for some guidance from you guys about if we could limit the physical postings of agendas, or if that is something that, and like have the make sure that we're posting all of them to our website, all of them to our social media pages, and having, if people want to stop by the town hall, we will print them a copy and send it with them. But just kind of wanted to get some sense from you about how you feel about that.
Questions or comments from the board?
I don't have any problem with having the paper there. If they take it, they have to take it with them. Don't put it back.
No, we have agendas in your office at Mary Ann's desk for people to take. Do we not? Have we always had that?
So we can. We don't have them. We have them posted up in the town hall in a couple different places, and then Mary Ann actually drives around town, and there are a few other places around town that she physically posts up a paper agenda. And so I guess what I'm asking is, are you comfortable with us kind of shifting that protocol a little bit, advertising what we're doing, making sure that people know where they can access that information in paper copy if they want to, and providing them with paper copies here at the town hall if they are requested, but having them available online as a primary source?
I'm comfortable with the way it is right now, but if no one's complained and no one said anything and we're still doing it and we're already supposedly moving through, why would we want to not continue doing it now?
I think because it didn't, I didn't realize what the town had as a practice. And so again, this is a place where I'm kind of catching up and getting up to speed on things. If you guys would like us to continue, we can do so. It is.
I would like to continue.
Okay. All right. Want to also just let people know the Public Way 16 stairs had been in very bad disrepair and weren't able to be used. They've been repaired this week. They're up and running again. So Public Way 16 now has safe passage. And also wanted to again remind people, it's been a topic today, but Swamp John Road is closed to everything but local traffic until we can get that skim code on. So if the public could really help us out by avoiding that path, the dust on that road is really a challenge for the people that live on that road. So just give us a couple more weeks, let us get that skim coat down there, but please avoid using that. And then finally, and on a, I didn't want to put this in good news because it's more of a somber tone, but at the same time want to give real kudos to where they are due. We had an incident earlier this week, or late last week actually, where we had a young man that was really struggling and threatening to do some serious self-harm. And we have 4 officers, Sergeant Adam Shaw, Sergeant Chad Aerosmith, Officer Brett Tisham, and Officer Justin Crowley, that really want to commend. We got some feedback from people that were observers of the incident, did a great job of being a calm and supportive presence, really de-escalated that situation, and that situation ended up without having serious consequences and loss of a young life. So real thanks to our officers for being there in a time of someone's real serious need and helping them through a time that could have been a real tragedy. So wanted to kind of just close out by saying thank you to those officers for stepping into that role and really providing that core service for our people.
Great, thank you. Anything else from the board?
Yeah, I just had one quick thing. I just wanted to take a minute to thank Mr. and Mrs. Essen for their continued commitment to this community. They've done a lot for Wells over the years, and just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge that.
Anything else?
I'm just so glad that like the town hall's opening up, and you know that I'm just thank you for that again, and hopefully we'll move on.
Great. That being said, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I think there was one other question
Oops.
real quick that had come in just after we close open to public, but I think it should be a quick one. I think we should just address it because it is in the chat over on the side here. Regarding beach rules signs along the beach and lifeguards.
Okay, you wanna
There
read it, John?
wasn't, yeah, it says town has been putting up the new beach rules signs along the beach. I live near Crescent Beach. The new beach rules sign is now posted there, but not the COVID rules. The new rules sign says there will be a lifeguard on duty daily until Labor Day, yet there has not been a lifeguard posted there this week. Beach is busier than most years. Will there be a guard posted there this long holiday weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday? And will you repost the COVID rules sign there?
Joanne, are you, oh, that's not
all in
Joanne.
the fire department.
Hold on, let me see if I've still got,
Is he still there?
I'm checking.
All right. I know they are short-staffed, and if they're not one, they should have people walking. If not, one posted there, all day long. They walk the beach when they have less lifeguards. Same as us, college.
He's on my list. He's showing up on the screen
Is he
here.
on there?
But I
Chris,
don't-
can you
Oh,
bring
there
him
he
in?
is. Yep.
Yeah, I just brought him over, but I'll try to.
I hear it
Keep you
die.
there. No, where'd he go?
He's being framed. He's coming
No,
here.
no, his name is on the screen, Kathy, not being framed.
Oh, I saw the frame. I thought after the frame, usually the picture arrives. So
Mark, you there? No, I guess he's.
I guess, well, the lifeguards are walking because they're short-staffed, and the signs, I guess we can look at, or check on that.
And if it's something different, we can get back to that person.
Yeah, and I think that's generally been the rule in past years. When I lived on the beach,
they're all headed
you
back
wouldn't
to
necessarily
college.
see them in the stands, in the lifeguard stands where they normally were in the summer. As we get to, they walk the beach, and you'll see them. If you go down on the beach, you'd actually see them, but you won't see them up in that stand by like Crescent Beach, where I think this gentleman's talking about is that one that's on the road. So you might not see them sitting up on that stand, but they might be on the beach somewhere walking. And that's understandable with kids going back to college. I think we lose quite a few lifeguards. So
Most of them.
Yeah.
yes.
All right. If nothing else, motion to adjourn, Kathy?
Yep, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Nice. Hey, yeah, not fair.
All
I
in
didn't even
favor?
text anybody, Tim.
Thank you.
Well, motion to adjourn accepted at 5-0. Thank you. Hey, stay safe, be well. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Good night.
Night, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you, Larissa. You're welcome.
Thank you, Larissa. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Can I ask? Oh, shoot.